I'm too raw for TV.
If you hear my voice, then you're part of the revolution. Welcome to the new world. I'm your host, the Ratchet Revolutionary, Palmetto Star. Hit me up on Instagram at Win the Revolution. They kicked my main account off, but you can still hit me up on Elon Musk Toy X, what we call it, Twitter. It's two Raw for TV Radio. So the number 2, RAW, number 4, TV Radio. And we're here with the one and only Athens legend, Broderick Flanigan. So he's going to tell you a little bit about himself. But this dude is definitely phenomenal. We met when I went out to Athens to promote for Claim Malcolm X Day. And it was just like a magnificent experience, man. I really respect what he does. His work is everywhere. You know, it's plastered everywhere. And, you know, he really not only is he a great artist himself, but he gives a platform for other artists to be great. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite passages in the Bible, which the church never repeats, is "Thou shalt do greater works than me." You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you got to give people platforms to be able to become great, and that's what True Robert TV is about, and Broderick Flanigan is about that too. And there has been an attack on Black art, attack on Black history, Black meaning, Black anything that has to do with Black has been under attack. Yeah, okay. Especially recently, it's been magnified. And so it's been a crazy journey. But you do your thing. You're a great Athens artist. Matter of fact, where can they find you at online?
Yeah, so online, I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Flanigan's Portrait Studio. That's FLANIGAN apostrophe S Portrait Studio, PORTRAIT. And that's mainly where I have my work.
Okay.
You know, like Palmetto was saying, first off, I want to say thank you for having me on the platform. It was a pleasure to meet you. An honor to be recognized at the Claim Malcolm X Day event through Sister Courtney Omega Doss. Like that's how we were connected. Shout out to her, beautiful sister, her and her family, her husband, doing great work in Athens.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a visual artist. That's what I do for a living. Doing that back full time again. I've been doing art in the form of like painting on canvas in my studio. I used to have a brick and mortar studio for about 8 years in a Black neighborhood in Athens, in public housing community, but also single family housing, African American neighborhood, and just also got into like public art. And so when I got into public art as a way to kind of bring more revenue to my art practice, and learning about public art space, I really, like you mentioned earlier, wanted to create a platform to where I can bring other people into the fold, teach younger artists, especially artists of color, Black artists, about what I was learning related to like public art and how to make it as an artist. And so there's still a lot that I have to learn myself at the same time as I'm learning and growing as an artist. I'm bringing people with me, you know what I mean? So yeah, shout out to you and your platform, for having me, and glad to be here, ready to just kind of dive into, the topic of the evening.
Yeah, but we're going in because we're talking about Black art, and how radical it is just to put the images out there that you put out there.
Yeah.
To me, Athens, I said this to many people, it's like it's just a fake small town. It's a
It's a faux small
it's a
town.
faux small town. Yeah. It's not a real small town.
Nah, and that's due in large part because of the University of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, Athens has grown by leaps and bounds because of that, because of the university presence there. It's an influx of transient like people that come through because of the university, but so many dope students and stuff come from all over the world, man. Like they have different African and Africana studies programs at UGA where they bring students. They have a Mandela Fellows program where they bring students from all over the continent to Athens to learn about like different like processes and government relation type stuff, how to develop nonprofits. And so I've met a lot of people from across the globe just from being in Athens and being connected in some of those spaces where the university exists and whatnot. So, yeah.
Well, it's good that you're doing that because one thing about your name, it rings bells all around.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, all everywhere. You know what I'm saying? People know and recognize Broderick Flanigan. You know, they know a little bit of work. They can point out some of your work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's a powerful thing. You know. Now, how did you really get into like the community building aspect of it? You know, but yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be an artist, but now you're going across the border into humanitarianism, you know, into, you know, helping these children and aspiring artists realize their dream. And that's so powerful, you know.
Yeah.
I know one thing, we've always gravitated towards the people that were following their dream, people that were able to live it out. And you just seen them doing that, and that's all they were doing.
Yeah.
That's, you know, as far as like my inspirations of people growing up. You know, that's how I would,
Right.
you know, see. So just to be that and be that in the community, you know what I'm saying, like that's a powerful thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a long story. I know that's like cliche to say that, but it really is though. Like I didn't really. I don't feel like I set out intentionally at first to do exactly what I'm doing like right now. Like if I'm being honest and transparent. Like growing up, I've always had people that like poured into me, just because of like how my family was situated. You know, I have come from a unstable home, you know, home life growing up, and I had several mentors, several people that really looked out for me growing up, and some of those lessons and the way they supported myself and my family kind of just stuck with me over time. I grew up in the church as well, and so like was constantly like hearing those messages about do unto others, you know, and like just being a good person and embodying that, you know. And so, and I'm not trying to say I'm perfect by any means, you know, like I'm not trying to sit up here and say like I'm, you know, on this pedestal or whatnot. At the same time, it's like going through those experiences and those struggles that I went through. And then when I got an opportunity, was afforded an opportunity to go off to college, get a degree, come back. When I came back, struggling on my career pathway, trying to figure things out as a young black man in America, figuring out how to like take care of myself. And then I also had a daughter as well. I have a daughter.
Yeah.
Shout out to her. She's an aspiring actress, you know. And so she's 21. Zaria is her name. And so, yeah, just like coming back home and seeing some of the things that I saw were still the same in the neighborhood that I grew up in, or some of the neighborhoods I grew up in. You know, bouncing around from different public housing communities in Athens. And I, you know, I really just got inspired to do something and to give back, to mentor youth that were in the neighborhoods where I used to live, and like getting involved in my church. It really kind of started in my church and like Ebenezer Baptist Church West, and like going into like volunteering in different programs and such, and learning about different ministries, and you know, being asked to serve on certain ministries. That was kind of like my really entry point into some of that work. Then I started learning about different nonprofits in Athens, and I met this guy named Lemuel LaRoche, or Life, who started this organization called Chess and Community. And we, you know, it was his idea, his brainchild. But I love to play chess as well, you know. So went into his organization and, helped him build up the board and like build up that organization, carrying out his vision. But I learned so much from him about like giving back, about investing in the youth, about how to create a program around like really targeting like or like really being intentional about how you reaching back like to bring people into the fold and bring people up along with you. And so like just through those experiences, that's kind of was really my foundation of like getting into this type of work. One thing though that happened along the way, I started to realize that that wasn't enough. It's like a lot of the kids we were serving were aging out of our program, and then they was just kind of like out there floating in the world, like roaming without a map or a guide. So
what did you do at that point? But I just want to say that because they are fighting against stuff like that, fighting against the arts, and there's a fight for artistic expression.
Oh yeah,
that is not mentioned on the news, but every child paintbrush is screaming about it. Tonight, we're going to explore some of the entities that are attempting to pull funding for the arts and ask, is art that dangerous? We will also be talking to award-winning artist, Athens' own Broderick Flanigan. He definitely does his thing. You guys hit him up on Twitter.
Yes,
and check out his art. You could actually just go to Athens just to check out his murals. You could have a whole mural tour. You know what I'm saying? Just put you up on that. So,
I got several murals up in Athens.
Broderick Athens mural tour.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Broderick Flanigan mural tour. You could have that whole thing going on over there. But it's so inspirational. It has to be so inspirational coming from where you come from. And all of that. Can you tell them a little bit about the community and where you're coming from?
Yeah. Athens is an interesting place, interesting town. It's about 28% black. There's just like many other towns, there's a lot of like segregation and like divide and whatnot, a lot of racialized like poverty and things of that nature. And it's also like, some African Americans that are doing well, again, because of the University of Georgia, because of certain like, strides that people fought for in the past. At the same time, like by and large, I think many people, though, there are still struggling. We have a high poverty rate in Athens, one of the highest in the state. I can't remember exactly what number we are situated at in terms of like the poverty rate, but it is very high. If you like adjust the poverty rate for the student population that's in Athens, it's still around about 20 something, 28%, 27, 28% poverty.
Yeah.
And again, like a lot of that is racialized. And so there are opportunities in Athens though. It's just some of those opportunities aren't available to people that look like myself or look like us, and so that's like a broad stroke overview. Athens is a big music town, big football town, college town. You got bands that came up through the 90s, even before the 90s, but like REM, Widespread Panic.
Okay.
Those type of bands were really big in Athens. Even before them, though, you got Pylon, B-52s, and like some other like well-known bands that like REM. I think it was REM. Anyway, but many of those type bands came through Athens and created this like bustling or burgeoning music scene. And so that's what you have, like a lot of that like college town like energy. But then you also have like it's a tale of like two different cities really. You got Black Athens, and Black Athens is again it's not a monolith. It's a spectrum of blackness in Athens. At the same time though, like where I grew up in certain situations where I was in public housing, for part of the time, where I was in single family housing. My grandmother did own two homes actually in Athens. and through certain circumstances, we lost that property. And again, like like it was just interesting to see like how Athens developed and how like black neighborhoods were being decimated or gentrified.
Yeah.
Historically, if you look at like historic African American neighborhoods like Town. If you guys care to look or do some research about that, like look up Town. It's an African American neighborhood in Athens that was through urban renewal. It was destroyed, to build like student housing. And back then, like the University of Georgia was not integrated. It did not allow its first black students until 1961 or so. Charlene Hunter Galt and Hamilton Holmes. That's when the first African American students went to UGA. And so at that time, in the mid 1960s, when Town was being erased, like that's what you see, like that was Athens. And so like that things like that kind of like carried on throughout, where you have this divide in Athens. But again, like I love Athens, I love my city, but that's why I do the work that I do.
Yeah.
And using like art as a platform to like talk about some of those topics and some of those things, having those hard conversations is just a small part of what I do. And like, yeah, I don't want to get too far off topic, but yeah,
we're gonna go in.
That's what Athens is.
You know what? We about to go in. It's still gonna be too deep for the social media. Too deep for Instagram. Too deep for Twitter, Facebook, all the platforms that we're on right now. We've got to bring it on Too Raw for TV.
Mm-hmm.
But first, I just want to give people a shout out to my Emerald Bee Honey. Big time shout out to them. You know what I'm saying? You guys get your My Emerald Bee Honey, DM me. They also got the black honey that comes in this. You guys check that out, black honey. So, big time shout out to My Emerald Bee. Keeps your mind clear. And honey is a food that never goes bad. You have pyramids with, with the mummies have honey, but it's still just as edible as it was 2,000, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's the crazy.
I don't know if I would trust it. I don't know. 2,000-year-old honey, I don't know. I don't know. You got that. You got that. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
You did. Oh,
I don't know if I want to test that. Yes, sir.
But you gotta check out my Emerald Bee and check us out on TooRawForTV.tv. We got your revolution will not be televised. Too Raw for TV.
Yeah.
Athens' own Broderick Flanigan. And we're talking about just how there's such an attack on the arts, especially black art, especially now. What's your thoughts on the assault on black art, black history right now? With the current political climate, what's your thoughts on what's happening right now with the attack on different museums, black museums getting losing their funding, all these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an assault, an all-out attack on like black history, black culture, suppressing, our voices, our spaces. That's just one tactic I feel like that white supremacy uses, like to like stifle us, stifle progress, like set us back. Like culture can be powerful in certain ways. There's this ongoing like thing that I'm grappling with myself, related to like culture and the arts and like politics, especially on a local level. I do believe in the power of the arts. The arts can only take us so far, though. But
Mm.
the art, the powerful thing about the art, if we put it into a certain context, for me, is that artists are usually like free thinkers. You know, there are people who kind of like think outside the box, who go against the grain, who are willing to experiment and try new things, that are not really like buying into like the status quo of how things are, always questioning, you know, certain things. And so if you think about it from that context, that's in my